What's up, world, and welcome back to the Global Frequency. I am your host, Nefarious. And tonight we are joined by the master of mutton chops, Phill Diaz from Zaid Comics, here to tell us all about his new collaborative indie comic book crowdfunding campaign, Psycho Slumber, a Lost Pages and Kill Journal crossover.
Hey, what's up, guys? Thank you guys for having me. It's been a while.
Glad to have you anytime, man. Always welcome on this channel. It's been a while since we had you on last. I think that was for Lost Pages 3, which was a rousing success. So it's a good time for us to catch up, maybe catch the audience up with what you've been doing. But first, why don't you start with where you're from, how you grew up, and what do you do?
Hi, I'm from the Chicagoland area. I've lived here all my life, and where I'm from, what do? I write comic books, I publish comic books. I love storytelling and consuming stories as well. And was there a third question there? I'm 6'5". Yeah. You know, I'm not single.
Not single, yeah. So he's got great hair, stellar personality, but he's not single, ladies. Sorry, you're gonna have to let this one go. He's already taken. Are you still at the arcade?
Yes, yeah. You just
so you make comics and you work at an arcade.
Yeah, work at now the largest arcade in the world. We just passed 1,000 games on the floor this past August.
It's Galloping Ghosts?
Yes, Galloping Ghost Arcade.
The cool kid everyone wanted to grow up to be. Like when I was in school, it was like a dream. Like if I could make comics and work at the biggest arcade in this, the US, would be like the dream. You would die for that, right? Also to have like the jawline and the hair. I was telling Vaughn, we were talking, and I was saying that everyone has like their little idiosyncrasies. Vaughn's a little ADD at times, right? He can be a little bit overwhelming to people, and Narwhal's kind of weird and quirky, and he's kind of like strange on purpose. And then there's you, and you're just like all of the things that are cool, right? Like you're talented, you're good looking, you're successful. And I was like, we have to drown you in a lake because you make all the rest of us look bad by comparison.
I'm a witch. That's what it is.
But you see, you'd probably float or walk on water and it wouldn't even work. So yeah, it's just, we're screwed. We can't get rid of Phill Diaz. He's too awesome. So how did you fall in love with comic books?
Oh man, I really gravitate towards characters, and growing up watching the X-Men animated series with my dad, and then the Bruce Timm Justice League stuff, Justice League Unlimited, that stuff really stood with me and grabbed my attention. Just like this colorful cast of characters, what separates them from each other, the abilities they have, the character designs, like that's the stuff I love. And then in my teenage years, I had a theater buddy who was a huge comic nerd, and he had a car. And I remember we were, at practice for Wizard of Oz or something like that. And he had in his car, in the trunk, was just bagged and boarded floppies, because every Wednesday he'd spend like $100 at the comic shop. And so he made like a list of Batman stories, like trades that I needed to read. And so I got in that way and just ate that stuff up. That's when I like avidly started consuming comics. When I was young, we go to Wizard World out here, and I'd pick like some floppies that the cover I thought was cool and just look at the pictures and stuff like that. But, when I was a teenager, I really started reading.
So I know Lobo is your main man, right? But what else do you like to read? And I also know you got your hands recently on like the big Trigun omnibus that Dark Horse put out. Is there anything else out there that caught your eye that's on the stands, or any indie crowdfunded books that you need to recommend?
Well, stuff that I just fell in love with back in the day was like Saga of Swamp Thing. That was like a huge getting me into comics run. And I have like the big hardcover omnibuses of that. Hellboy I loved as well. Stuff right now, I really like you said, just got into Trigun. I know I'm 30 years late on that, but devouring that stuff. It's so
it's a fun book. Vatch is very entertaining. The pacing's really great in that. Like you could fly right through it. It's a lot of fun.
It's crazy because I grew up being like a very slow reader and someone that didn't like to read in school. And like I read Trigun, it's like I just read 300 pages and like it's crazy. But stuff right now that I would recommend is I'm a huge Kyle Hotz fan. And I mean, you mentioned Lobo. They just came out with a Lobo one shot that DC didn't like advertise at all. I made a video on it, looking at the art and talking about the story, and it's super fun. Like it's a great way to get into the character. And if you already love the character, so awesome. He just did I think it's issue 2 of the Violator. Kyle Hotz said I need to get my hands on that as well. His art is just mind blowing.
So the Lobo fan is suggesting the Lobo book that's currently on the stands, folks. Yeah, it's
go get that.
Who would have thought? So when did you start writing? And how did you get into it? How did you get into writing, and then how did you get into writing for comics?
So I was always, I guess, like a daydreamer, and would just come up with scenarios and characters, whether it was like playing in the pool with my brother when I was young, or riding in the back seat of our parents' car, going on trips, and just loving coming up with characters. I remember when we were young, we would play this MMO called City of Heroes.
Yep.
And you make your own superhero. And I would never get past like level 5 because I would go back and then make a new character and then play as that one, and then go back. And it was just this running joke with my brother and I. So just the character and coming up with characters was just so fun with me. Once I got in like the end of high school, my brother and I were encouraged by our boss, who we still work for at the arcade, Doc, who owns the arcade, to start making comics. And I'm sure I've shown it on streams, but like our old comics we did like back in 2011 was the Silhouette, who's one of our main characters from the Lost Pages, and we would take pictures of us and our friends in front of a green screen and make it into Photoshop it to look like a comic. So that's how I really got writing stories. And then when I went into schooling after high school, community college, I had short story courses and poetry courses and fiction writing and stuff. And I would still write stories about the Silhouette, in those classes and stuff. So that's kind of where I learned structure of things.
And then you sort of built out a whole pantheon of characters to complement the different niches for storytelling that you have populating the Lost Pages universe, which we will get into. But before we do, I have to ask the obligatory question that Mo Biggs wants the answer to every show. It is, do you have any formal instruction or education in storytelling for sequential art? Do you ever study to tell comics, either visually or narratively?
Specifically sequential art, no formal. I guess there's schools your people could go
like that's 90% of our guests don't, right? Like some people went to like SVA, or they went to that comic book school out in Cubert, or the one in Portland or Washington, or I don't know, somewhere in the West Coast. But most people, they kind of came from either like a entertainment background, like films, something with scripts that, people tend to, think visually that way, or they got into it through more of a literary arm, learning writing and structure and craft, and then deciding that portraying it with pictures was how they wanted to go. So it's kind of, a lot of people are self-taught, right? And that's one of the reasons that comic book script writing is just so freeform. There's really no like structured way to do it. There's no formal way to do it, right? Are you going to ask a question, or you been bothering me about saying hi to the chat? Is that it?
I was going to bother you to say hi to the chat, but I also was just thinking, like, because Phill said, he was doing Wizard of Oz when, not the kid with the comic books on the car. And I was just thinking we've had a number of guests who have that like kind of crossover between theater and comics. Like Tony James got into it through theater. Travis has theater. Like, so I was just
that's interesting.
amusing to myself that I thought
Yeah,
that.
I mean, that's interesting. You heard it. You heard it here, ladies and gentlemen. We should do a little segment just called "That's interesting" for you. So yeah, let's say hi to the folks in the chat real quick. We have got starting at the beginning. I think we got Will. Right? Was Will first as usual? No, Mo was first this time. Oh damn! Will got beat by Mo. We've also got D-Wag in here, and we got Ape. He said he can't stay, but he went to say that Lost Pages digest size was some serious business. Looking forward to more from Phill. Yeah, definitely looking forward to more from Phill. Honestly,
thanks,
Lost Pages is a great series. We're gonna get into that. We got D-Wag, like I said. We have also got Krager down here. What is up, my brother in space?
And we also have a bunch of people watching on Twitch and Twitter
who would rather not type in the comments. Just fine by me, because then I don't have to read them all.
If you're watching on Twitter,
yeah,
there's no like
right, which I appreciate. I'm glad that it's done that way. Right. So this is your like 6th trip around the block, I guess, crowdfunding a comic book, and the reception to your previous projects have been overwhelmingly positive. Everyone I talk to loves the Lost Pages, so you're doing something right. What sources of inspiration do you draw upon to come up with such exciting and memorable stories? And tell me where I can steal your ideas from.
Oh man, I mean, I think it's probably the same for a lot of storytellers. It's just everything you consume, stuff that you fancy and just are attracted to. It's obvious, like people, if you like something and you like reading about something or watching something, other people, and you come up with the ideas that's inspired by that, other people are probably most likely going to enjoy that if you have, work hard at it and develop a craft and focus on the storytelling. A lot of it, getting back to how I decided to do comics, is one of the classes I took in college was a mythology class, and that spanned from ancient mythology to fairy tale storytelling and all of the different cultures that share similar stories across the globe. And that was really mind-blowing to me, and really fell in love with that, to a point, like at one point I wanted to teach that, and then I'm like, oh, I could make my own stories, and just was fascinated by studying the storytelling from ancient history, and that was awesome. So like that, and if you read some of my stuff in the Lost Pages, you could see influence from ancient, like Greek myth. And, I did the wild card story in the first Lost Pages that involved the Siren sisters. I love Edgar Allan Poe in Lost Pages 2. It's heavily influenced by El Dorado. It's my favorite works of his. And specifically, the villain's name is El Dorado, and I referenced the poem in there too. So it's, I think I have more of like an old school taste than a lot of people in my generation.
So you haven't just featured like a wide variety of characters. You also feature a wide variety of artists in your different issues, right? Like you work with lots of different talent. Do you have something you wanted to?
No.
Okay. So how do you pick who's right for the job? Like, is there a criterion when you have a story, you have a look in mind? How do you go find the right person?
Well, at first, I didn't know anybody. So before I came out with Magic Copy, even, I had the characters for the Lost Pages, and I had some friends who were artists, concept artists for like video game companies and stuff like that. And I tried to work with them, but they had never done sequential art before. So it was very difficult with them. And I unfortunately made the mistake of paying ahead of time and then not getting any work, or maybe getting like a concept from them. And that's basically it. But it was until I got into crowdfunding and like made a Twitter account and started posting things, and then finding this super fruitful ground for hungry artists that wanted to create things. And then by the time we were done with the first Magic Hop, I had a bunch of friends now that were amazing artists, and it was I felt spoiled, and I could be like, oh, Joe Ball, you have this hyper realistic style. I'd love to see you do this story, or working with Maxi Dallo on the silhouette, and was able to put some art to the vision I had in my head and build those working relationships with them. So like, I don't know, I love art, and I have a style in mind for the story I'm trying to tell. So when you network enough, and a lot of people that are hungry, it's pretty easy, I think. And
I mean, you even had a Bisley cover on the last Lost Pages, right? How'd that happen?
Yeah, that's great. So this is all like just, I guess, knowing people. So you remember Sweens from back in the day who did Oddity?
Yeah, I remember Sweens Oddity.
Yes, Sweens. He somehow got in contact with one of it's not really an art rep, I guess it's Simon's friend who runs berserkerart.com, who he sells a lot of art almost like a rep, but for a bunch of British artists. So he had his information, shot it to me, and he's like, oh, I know you're a huge Bisley fan. And then we got the Lost Pages 1 cover from him. And then maybe a year later, I saw Simon at a convention. I was like, oh, you remember this cover? He's like, yeah, I'd love to drawing that Krim character. We should do it again. And here's my.
And you were like, okay, here's money.
Yeah. And so we hit it off. He called me like the next week, and it's been pretty awesome ever since. Like, calls me every once in a while, and really dug like the masculine factor of Krim and knocked it out of the park for the third volume cover. And I talked to him like a couple of weeks ago. He's like, "What am I doing another cover for you?" He's like, "I gotta get money, dude."
That's awesome.
That's great to have though. Like have a professional like Simon Bisley, be a fan of your creation, your work, and really want to involve themselves with it. That's a lot of I almost feel like really validating. So about the artists, right?
Mm-hmm.
On the previous campaign, on the Crimstone campaign for Lost Pages 3, you had Ricardo Jaime, right?
Yes.
And Eugene Bedivu. Is that how you say his name? Eugene?
Yeah.
Or okay.
It's like Eugenio. I call him Eugene. So.
Yeah. But this book has Juan Gedeon on it.
Mm-hmm.
Why make the change if you find an artist that really captures the style of the character? And it was Ricardo Jaime last time. Why did you go with Juan this time?
So during the creation of the Lost Pages 3, Ricardo was doing pages and doing the art for us. He also does an amazing job on that book Godslap. So that's like his main gig, and so we had to kind of work around his schedule for that, right?
Yeah. Okay, that makes total sense. Yeah, I mean, I knew he was doing Godslap. I didn't know if that was like something he was still doing, if it's ongoing. I know that oh, what's the dude's real name? I can never. I know his Twitch handle. I don't know his real name, but he hired was it the dude that did Beef Bros. I'm so bad at names. I really am. I'm just the worst.
I'm distracted because apparently you can leave comments if you're on Twitter. We just can't respond to you from our chat on StreamYard. Hi, Travis.
Okay, we're having like a conversation about stuff, and you're like,
I'm paying attention to the chat.
Sure. So Aubrey Sitterson, that's it. Aubrey Sitterson. Yeah, I was working on that for a while. So yeah, Aubrey took over some of the writing duties on that. I didn't know it was like an ongoing thing. Is it still continuing? Is Ricardo still working on that?
Yeah, it's being published now by Bad Egg. Picked it up, and they just formatted it for Global Comics, so it's on Global Comics in a scrolling
Who
feature.
knew that would take off the way that it did, huh?
Yeah, I just heard of it.
Yeah. Who knew? Who knew? No idea. No one sees these things coming, right? Yeah. It's just like lightning in a bottle. Okay, so
Mo says Phill is a quality writer.
He is.
And
Thank you,
Travis
Mo.
says I'm kind of a big deal now.
Which Travis? Our Travis? Travis Gibb. Yeah, he is kind of a big deal. Yeah, I actually shot you a message on Twitter. You should check it out because I have a cool idea for you, Mr. Big Idea.
Oh, tell me what it is.
Mr. Big Bad Idea. So how'd you get into crowdfunding? What is it that attracted you to the idea of crowdfunding?
Just the ability to make your vision, you know. I think one of the first crowdfunders I ever saw was for a comic book. You know, before I had like ordered some board games off of Kickstarter. I did like the Hellboy board game back in the day. Kickstarter, I was a fan of. There was this Charlie Brown apocalyptic comic book called Weapon Brown that I backed, but the big one from this sphere was Brutus the Badass. I saw that and the support he was getting. You know,
Donald DeLay on Brutus.
Yes, yeah. Donald and Nasser on Brutus, and I was like, I'm, you know, a huge Lobo fan. I'm like, this looks like Lobo, like everything I want, and I loved that first book. It was awesome. So Brandon and I had the idea for Magic Hop. It was originally going to be a side-scrolling beat 'em up, and then we're like, why don't we have so much story? Why don't we try to do a book with it? And that was the first thing we did.
Works as proof of concept really well too.
Yeah.
So what has it attracted you to like the Indiegogo community in particular? Because we have had like a pretty significant stratification in the different crowdfunding platforms, although that's just kind of blurring away at this point. Most people have like gotten over the idea of loyalty to one platform and others being that they all suck.
Yeah. Well, looking on just from a backer standpoint on Indiegogo at the time, it seems much more understandable than something like Kickstarter was. It seemed user friendly, and then also on the back end, for sure, for creators at the time, it was as well. I really liked the fact that you would get the as a backer, the money would come out of your account right away, so you wouldn't have to worry about it later. And you know, Kickstarter, that's very different. After the 30 or 45 days, then they take all the stuff, and then you have to use backer kit, and it's this whole like there's multiple steps for things. So Indiegogo was
the surveys are a pain. Yep.
Yeah. I wish that at the very least, like just the like address and email would auto populate, because tracking like hounding people for.
But if you're a super backer, right? Like if you back things regularly, weekly, monthly, whatever on a crowdfunding platform, having to remember to fill out the surveys of things that you backed 60 days ago is, you know, it can be cumbersome, especially if multiple campaigns end within that time period. But the thing for me with Kickstarter that shied me away was always the shipping, because they would estimate shipping upfront, right? And they've since corrected this, but at first it was like they estimate shipping, then the shipping changes, then they charge you a different amount, which isn't what you pledged. And that always freaked me out when I would see that. And I would have always like, you know, I pledged $30. Why am I being charged $42? What is going on? So for me, it was like the idea of paying right away, getting the money taken out of the account, not having any sort of possible shenanigans after that was a lot more like, it put me very much at ease. That, and at the time, in demand was a huge part of it too. We didn't have a website, we didn't have anything set up, so having the ability to advertise a place where you could go get the book and know that it was going to be fulfilled because it had been, and see all the comments and the updates and everything was like a, you know, like you had a home base for your project. It wasn't just 30 days and then over, right? And like that's the end. Indiegogo still kind of like held your hand afterwards, but Indiegogo has a huge problem with discoverability lately. I know that they're working on that, but like I said, that's why both of the crowdfunding platforms are kind of, you know, Both of them suck right now, in my opinion. Anyway, it's time.
Don't forget your other option, GoFundMe.
Right, GoFundMo. There's also the crowdfunder, and there's Zoop, and there's Fund My Comic, and there are all these competitive sites that are trying to pop up and say that they do crowdfunding better or differently, and it's all just variations on the same thing, and they're all just copying like WeFunder and like the original startup venture capital websites for new businesses. But like I said, we've been beating around the bush a little bit too much. Why don't we talk about your cock? And by that, I mean, why don't you tell us about Psycho Slumber, your creator-owned comic? Who are the characters? Who are the antagonists? What's the central conflict? What are the stakes?
Awesome. So if you guys have previously read The Lost Pages, and The Lost Pages 3 was all about Crimstone, that big purple badass imaginary friend, and his counterpart Jasmine. Well, they are starring in this book, The Psycho Slumber, and they're thrown into this crazy predicament dealing with psychotic slashers. This is a crossover between The Lost Pages and the Kill Journal. And if you've read Adam Lawson's Kill Journal, it is super gory, super horrific, and we have a new revenant this time. So Jazz and Krim have to go up against Simon, the slasher, who hunts you in your sleep. And we have Marty and Finch here from the Survivors Club in the Kill Journal. I'm going to fill them in on all of the crazy, horrific stuff. So it's heroes versus horror in this 60 pages. We get thrown into the dreamscape multiple times here. And the cool thing is Krim lives on that edge between reality and imagination. And it's going to make for a lot of awesome
touch the world of dreams. I have to say, you did such a good job with that character. Krim was kind of like in the background of my favorite characters in Lost Pages. I really like what you did with Masquerade. That thing was actually the first character that I fell in love with from the Lost Pages series, other than the hobo, because the hobo is just the man. And then I was like, oh, dude, the silhouette is so good. And I was like, yeah, Krim, whatever. And then what you did with Crimstone, the concept of the big badass imaginary friend, it did feel very much like Pitt-esque, because Timmy's like, oh, this is my big friend, right? My big alien friend. But the added element of Jazz has an imaginary friend who beats up the bad guys and lives kind of like in the back of her mind, and all of the exciting, like animated cartoony shit that Krim can do was a whole nother level and layer of the character that I think you did a really great job with. So I just, hats off to you about that. What makes Krim such a good fit for a crossover with the Kill Journal, which I have and I've read, and I have the hardcover one with like the textured,
so nice.
That's dope. But it's like you said, a very slasher, very bloody, very fierce and gritty book, and Krim strikes me as almost the inverse of that in a way. Like Krim is more exaggerated and hyperbolic, right? Like there's more fantastical stuff. It's not as grounded in the blood and the gore. How did you decide to fit Krim in with Kill Journal?
Well, Adam came to me and he's like, I want to do this crossover, and any of your Lost Pages characters. And I was looking at the slasher archetypes that he has, and he didn't have like that Freddy iconic type dreamscape slasher. I really wanted to put my twist on that, and I thought that because Krim does straddle that line of reality and dreamlike imagination, it would work very well. You could counteract the horror and gore with some levity with Krim. And in that imaginary world, is if you guys read the third Lost Pages, you could see Krim, he goes crazy. He has the abilities of the Mask, where he could shape shift, he could pull guns out of nowhere, so you could really go all out with these battles in the mind with Simon, because Simon also he manipulates the world of the dream world that he inhabits. So in my mind, I was like, oh, the potential, we could do whatever we wanted with these fight scenes, you know, and just have a lot of fun with them.
That's what I said to Ollie the first time I saw it. Ollie says, "Is that a mad ball?"
Okay,
That
okay,
was the first
okay.
thing that I thought of when I saw that.
So yeah, he's acting like a mad mole. Let me just say for a second here. I think that was kind of a missed opportunity for you and Adam. You know, I'm all about the merch, the branding, the marketing, that kind of thing. Did you guys? What's up, Sam? Did you guys ever consider making like a custom stress ball for
I guess
Head?
You haven't seen this, but Eric Hutfuls from the chat, he actually made a
Pesci
Crim mad ball. Yeah, look at this. He made this.
Awesome.
Perfect.
And my girlfriend painted it. And I would love to make it like available. So he made like 3 of them. He gave Bancroft one for some reason in Tampa. I don't know why he gets one, but shout out to Eric Hutfuls. It bounces. It's squishy.
It's a squishy stress ball. Yeah,
it's freaking awesome.
Perfect.
I mean, hats off to Art, definitely. But there are sites where you can. There's like one that's literally called Promo Bear USA that lets you design the shape, texture, size, and image for your very own stress ball, and then order them in bulk. So you're ordering them at like, say, 28 cents to $1, and then you slap it on a $20 tier or something, and you're crushing it with the margin, and everybody's like, holy shit, a stress ball, a mad ball, no one's got that. And I'm just like, I look at these things and I'm like, oh, he had it right there.
Yeah.
Where is it? Phil, we need it. I would own it.
Is it Creepsters?
I know. We'll get on that.
Creepsters. I remember Nasser's Creepsters. Yeah.
And Ollie says,
oh, he's a tulpa. Yeah, you could do a Cryptids crossover for sure. I think Crim's a really great character with a lot of potential. And hats off to you for using him, because I could see someone like the Silhouette being perfect for the Kill Journal, right? Like very gritty, very gritty's probably the best word. I'm not going to try and be a human thesaurus. I'm just going to say that would be a much more similar in tone style story between the two universes, taking Crim and almost going in like a juxtaposed tone, but making it complement Kill Journal. That was a smart idea. Kudos to you. Let's talk a little bit more about the plot. So Simon is sort of like that Freddy Krueger style slasher thing, right? And I know Adam's not here, which is a shame because I wore my Jawbone shirt for him.
That's badass.
And he's not here. He always does this too. Like I show up at a convention and I'm wearing my my getup, my Survivor shirt from the last Kill Journal, and he just doesn't show up. It happens every time I wear my Adam gear. There's no Adam, but I guess he's here in spirit, right? But so Simon's like this slasher guy, right? How does the Kill Journal team track him down, and how do they come face to face with Jazz?
Yeah, so we actually did a preview book, which was like the first, I'd say, 15 pages of it. I think I have it somewhere here. And it's actually, we put it up on Global Comics. So if anybody is subscribed to there, you could read the first 16 pages or the first 10 pages free, even if you're not subbed to Global Comics. So definitely check that out. But in this story, like in the intro, Jazz and Crim are tracking down a thief that's broke into a pharmacy and stole a bunch of pills. And he's running through the city, and the reason he stole those pills is because he's been up for like 3 days straight, and the pills are stimulants. He doesn't want to fall asleep, and he's popping those pills. He's got a gun, waving it around. They subdue him, and before she's going to punch this guy out, Finch jumps her. He's like, you can't knock him out, because if he does, he's going to get killed by Simon. So the Kill Journal team has been tracking this Revenant this whole time, and Crim and Jazz just happen to fall into the right place at the right time, and they have to team up to help bring Simon down. And that's another thing I love about the Kill Journal is like each of these Revenants, each of these killers have a specific way, that something that ties them to this world, right? So coming up with that and figuring out what made Simon demented into this killer was the fun of it for me. It was a lot of fun because that's like the mystery of it.
Right. So looking at the preview book here on Global Comics, I noticed that in the story credits, it's you and Adam together, but you get the writing credit, the script credit.
Yes.
How do you guys divide up the labor when you're working on these books?
Yeah, it was really simple. Like it was awesome. He gave me a lot of leeway, and he's like, I want to do this crossover. We came up with the basic plot, the villain. We knew we were going to use Krim. The characters from the Kill Journal, Marty Finch, definitely wanted St. George in there as well, and the hobo from the Lost Pages. And he's basically like, you go write the script, 60 pages. And when it was done, we would pass it back and forth. And, he would revise dialogue things for the Kill Journal characters and have suggestions and be like, maybe we should tweak this here. And that's until we had a hammered out script, and then we sent it over to Juan. So it was nice.
When you sent it over to Juan, did Juan do layouts that you approved and move on to pencils? Did you and Adam look at layouts and pencils together? Did he go straight through line work and hand you back finished pages? How'd that work?
So he would do layouts and, probably like, 4 or 5 pages at a time. And then we would pass with editorial notes, and then he would go in and start finishing those layouts.
Now, did you both give notes on that? Or was that just you, or did Adam take the Kill Journal pages and you took the more Lost pages?
No, we would both see the layouts, and then I would shoot Adam my notes, and then he would have his notes, or or if we had point of contention, we would talk it out, and then Adam would send the final notes over for the art.
Right. And it's very common for creators, especially established and experienced creators like Adam and Phill, when working in collaboration like that, you don't necessarily use or need an editor because there are a bunch of eyes on the project already with the two creators / writer, the artist, the colorist. But did you guys think about using an editor to kind of coordinate the project, kind of have a, I guess, the final product in mind when going through all of these steps, so that you could each do your independent parts, to the best of your ability without having to spread yourself so thin?
For the script, Adam, to me, basically acted as the script editor, especially because he knows his characters better than I do, stuff like that. But of course, we're going to use a copy editor when everything's done and letters are laid down. But yeah, you're right. Working with a bigger group like that, definitely having that eyes, and he's corrected a bunch of stuff for me on this story.
That's cool. That's cool that Adam was able to work as the story script editor for you when you fed back the script. And the two of you, I guess, bounced the script around before it went, over to Juan. So, there was a pretty solid consensus on what you guys wanted to see from Juan, and then you both split the responsibility of looking at that. So honestly, it seems like a pretty well conceived and thought through project. It's not like there was too much work on any one person, so that the details that they missed went and fell through the cracks. There's always someone else helping back them up. And that's one of the great things about the collaborative process. When someone has a script and turns it in, there's, if there's a writing partner, or the person that is their partner on the project, they can always help strengthen and provide feedback. I know because I've done collaborative work before, right? And it's a lot of fun working with a partner. Now, you and your brother Brandon, usually work together on pretty much all the other stuff, right? The Magic Cop stuff, the Lost Pages stuff. Was it similar to working with him, working with Adam, or was there a different type of working relationship?
It was different. You know, when I work with Brandon on story a lot, I mean, we're together, you know, most days during the day. We work together. And so, yeah, we work out together too. We go to the gym. And if we're talking about like story
He's got to
points,
work. He's got to work in the going to the gym bit too. Yeah.
So we'll,
handsome and in shape, ladies.
We'll talk about story points in person, and especially if we're doing something on Magic Cop and you know, I'm looking over his art. It's different than with Adam. Adam's always on the go. Like if I get a call from Adam, he's usually driving, you know, home from work, you know? So I'm like, all right, I got maybe 15 minutes that I can talk to this guy on the phone, because he's going to open the door and his kid's going to jump into his lap. So yeah, it's different, you know, and then other than that, it's usually through like text message, you know.
I'm lucky because I think he calls me when he's in traffic and he's got no one else to talk to.
Yeah.
So we usually have like hour-long conversations while he's sitting there bumper to bumper. And then of course it's, oh, I gotta go and have him home. My kids are here. Click.
Right.
So, but yeah, he's great. He's great on the phone. I have a blast talking to him. All right. So let's talk numbers here for a hot minute. All right.
Yes.
This campaign, you did the Ashcan prior to this, right?
Yeah.
What were the totals on the Ashcan campaign? Do we have the numbers on that?
So we did a short run for the preview book. It was numbered and signed by Adam 50, and myself. Right? Yeah, we did 50 of them. And that sold out in a couple of days, which was awesome. So I really enjoyed doing that. I think I'm gonna do that for some other books we do down the line.
Right. And you did that on your website, right? You didn't do that through a crowdfunding campaign.
Right.
You just straight up did it. And so those sold out pretty quickly. Mm-hmm. It was a $20 book, right? So you sold the basic book for $20 plus shipping. I don't know what shipping was. I'm gonna assume it was like 10. So it's $30 times 50. How much is that? 1,500?
It might have been lower than $10, but
nope.
Yeah,
$5.
Sure.
Let's just do the base. 20 times 50, right? That's what, 1,000? Yeah. Right. So $1,000 like sold out in just a couple days. I do remember the launch on Bancroft. I was there for that. I experienced the feeding frenzy where over half of them sold out in the first hour, which was,
it was so
awesome.
Cool.
Awesome to watch. And then you launched the full book, which is 60 pages. It's $25, not $20 like the preview book. Although the preview book did have that super awesome foil, holofoil, was it? Is that what it's called? A holofoil cover, holographic cover, shiny, special, sparkly.
They call it twinkle foil.
Twinkle foil.
I prefer not to call it that. But.
Yeah, twinkle foil. That's all I'm going to call it from now on. Twinkle foil. Odin's variant cover for Bancroft is going to be rainbow twinkle foil.
Yeah,
that's it. That's perfect. You know, My Little Pony finish on Bancroft's cover. So didn't have the special cover finish. They weren't numbered, right? They're not limited or anything, but it was a $25 price point for a 60-page book, which I think is really nice. It is still below the 50 cent per page expected maximum, right? So he's beaten the conversion there. It's, you know, it's a well-priced book. And of the, at this point, I guess we're 31 hours left in the 60-day campaign. You've got like 133 backers right now, right?
Yes.
Which is, you know, you figure you were going to get 50 of them from the preview book, right? 50 people bought the preview book. They're going to buy the main book, right? So of the 50 people, it leaves you about like 83 backers that have backed the book within those 60 days that you've been live. Now, that doesn't match up against what I expect from the Diaz brothers.
Sorry.
I'm addressing the elephant in the room because I don't know if you guys have talked about this generally, but you know, that's kind of the sentiment right now. Lost Pages 1 had 500 and 56 backers. People are clamoring for it, right? Lost Pages 2 had 604. The final count on Lost Pages 3 was 579. Where are those people, Phill?
Yeah, did you see Infinity War?
The movie?
Yeah, when Thanos, or if you read the book, when Thanos
snapped it was snapped him and they vanished.
And they vanished.
You've been talking to Fowler too much. So You've been talking to Fowler. That was his theory.
Here's my Fowler. When Thanos came down and he snapped his fingers, man.
Half the backers just disappeared, man. You should have seen what happened. It was a difference between Tiger Blue 1 and Tiger Blue 2, man. Yeah. I'm aware of his argument, his ultimate argument of logic, but I don't know if it holds water because I've seen a lot of people grow in that time. Yeah. I've seen a lot of people who have numbers that haven't been decreased. Now, granted, these people aren't in the 500s, 600s normally. Guys like Hojo who are in like the mid hundreds to low 200s, but they haven't had over the course of 3 books, they haven't lost backers. My concern is that we have had a pretty rich crowdfunding community, right? Where we have a lot of people who enjoy their crowdfunded comic books, a lot of people who have been, backing Kickstarters and Indiegogo campaigns for 4 or 5 years at this point. But it seems like a lot of them are now either no longer backing or going underground. And when it comes to something like Lost Pages, right, and Kill Journal, 2 very successful IPs from 2 very successful and reputable creators, Adam Lawson and Phill Diaz and Zane Publishing, right? I would expect that to be a fucking walk in the park. No offense, like bad words, right? That's a home run. That's a 500 backers easy.
Sure.
Yeah. What happened? Did you guys not advertise? Did you take it too easy? Are you as boggled by this as I am?
Well, I mean, look, it's Fowler.
Yes! Send him the link.
That's what Ollie said. Send Fowler.
Oh God, all right. Hold on. I mean, yeah.
So there's
is booming, haven't you heard?
Yeah, big econ. No, I mean, there's multiple variables to this campaign. How it's different from our previous ones. I would imagine probably August or September is not the best time to launch something, but they also say that about December, any of the last quarter of the year. It's our second time launching in that area. Our first time was our first campaign ever, which was our lowest campaign, Magic Cop 1. It's a crossover, I don't have, I guess my promotion of it, I don't know, I guess it could be lacking. Adam doesn't have the free time to do the promo of it. Bunch of people have a distaste in their mouth
for current crowdfunding climate. Yeah, absolutely. That's absolutely true. And yet, because I'm that guy, I'm just a big old loudmouth asshole in the room. Yeah. I still see people in crowdfunding who have been crowdfunding since 2019, 2020, not losing huge chunks of their audience. I don't want to upset Phill, but what is the percentage drop from 579 to 133?
Don't make me do math. I'm terrible.
But that's what I'm saying. As far as a percentage drop, maybe you lose 20% of your backers or 50% of your backers. He has lost 70% of his backers, and that's alarming to me, because if Phill Diaz doesn't have those backers, people like me are certainly not going to have backers to measure up to that, and that's what I'm getting at. That's a canary in a coal mine for me and for pretty much everybody else. It should be. And there are some people who are managing to stay below the carbon monoxide, right? But trees like you that grow that tall, being exposed to that type of withering decline in backers. That's kind of terrifying. What does Mo say?
Mobic says when not even shift can
fun. What hope is there for the rest of us? Well, it's funny that you say that, Mo. And it's funny he brings up shift. I don't think Mo knows. I don't think Mo knows.
We have a surprise coming.
Yeah, we do have a surprise for you, Mo.
Wait till February.
Snuggie says Fatty's lost a huge number of backers. That is true.
I guess it's time to smoke crack.
Right? Even
you don't be a coward. Wow.
Yeah, you don't want to be a coward, right? Even the people that wear the crowns, right? Heavy is the head that wear the crown. They're down a lot of backers across the board too, and I mean like hundreds upon hundreds of backers last time I checked.
Well, I think
Kickstarter is different.
This might be specific to me, to my situation. I'm not sure.
You mean like the shunning?
For sure.
I don't think the shunning is as big a factor as you might think it is, but I will accept that as certainly a potential factor in the decline of backers that are behind you. But I'm serious. Like I'm scared looking at this total because like it's not 183 backers, right? Even 183 be like, okay, it's closer to 200. It's all right. It's not 570, but at least it's 250. He still has half his backers. Like, no, we're below that, right?
Well, here's the thing too that is another variable. I have started. So this account that I'm crowdfunding this on is a new
account. I noticed that. Why did you go with a new account?
It was an experiment to see if we would get shadow banned on this,
like account. Last time, right? And that was I wanted to point out. Last time, I think it was your it was your highest backed campaign, Lost Pages 3, right? Lost Pages 3 is 579. It was the height of backers that you had. And you were shadow banned.
Right.
My boy is not in an algorithm. You can't find him on Indiegogo. And he still has 580 backers.
Mm-hmm.
And in this, there's nothing in your way. There's nothing stopping you from circulating.
Well, there's no shadow ban. But I think
Indiegogo sucks. It's just...
I was going to say, I think a few things have happened. One, just as far as like time of year between the election and
that's a big part of it,
coming up on the holidays, people are starting to spend on Christmas and other holidays. They're not spending for things that are coming in months ahead. There's also the economy's not super great. There's a lot of people don't have the same expendable income that they had a few months to a few years ago.
But Corey Barton and Jimmy Reyes will both tell you that if you really want it, you'll spend the money. So
you have to have the money.
Okay. That's I mean, that's an argument. That's a logical argument. All right. You're making a good argument as to why people can't get it, even if they really do want it. But that's neither here nor there, right? Like the not having the money. I do agree that the election has got a lot of people scared, but it's also eaten up a lot of people's attention on their Twitter feeds, and it's dominating their focus, right? And the economy is slow and it's hard. Snuggie asked, are you going to try Kickstarter?
Yes. Yeah.
That's a good idea. Just make sure you get a titty cover.
We might have one in the works right
now. We got Alex.
He's not going to try and
Pale Ale.
Alex Pale Ale.
I was going to say Pale, but then I was like, it's Pale Ale. All right, that's Alex Pale Ale. All right, Aaron can read. He can read.
I was waiting for the Alex Paleali, and I'm like, oh wait.
Mo says, if you can't sell crack, you can sell blood. It's true. Yours or someone else's.
The other part of what I was going to say is also that with all of the revamping that Indiegogo has done, I know for a while their site was very broken.
Still very broken.
I honestly haven't been on it enough.
Did you consider joining the Trusted Creators Club? That's an additional $500 a month as a membership. No. You didn't want to do that?
Yeah, you can now pay to have them.
You can now pay to have them promote your campaign.
Yeah, to not be shadow banned. I'm still this campaign it's not shadow banned on the site, but it is shadow banned on Google. So if you search the title, it won't come up on Google. It'll come up.
I found it. I found it on Google. I found it on Google
Right.
because I didn't know what it was called on Indiegogo. So it was just like, so
Oh, it
actually
did?
found it. I found it because Backer Kit shows up on Google,
Right.
and tells me that that's where it is, and then I have to click on Backer Kit
Right.
to go to the Indiegogo
Right.
site.
So there's no direct link to
Exactly. There's no direct link to
IGG
the Indiegogo site.
from Google,
But thank
you could find it on my
you for
store.
Backer Kit,
Yeah.
you obnoxious service,
Yeah.
for at least showing me the trend lines and daily totals and amounts raised. Honestly, Backer Kit's really, really cool resource for analytics. Yeah.
IJP Raiden Radio says, I tried selling my eggs, but they knew they were a chicken.
When they tried to freeze them.
Oh,
It's hard to freeze chicken eggs in those.
Trusted Creators Club is like betting on yourself, says Mobix. You could be the Pete Rose of comics.
Ooh.
But you better
Have
be
a Johnny Hustle. Yeah, good idea. Yeah. We got Raiden Radio. We also have Shadow Punk joined us.
Brother.
Gotta say hi to everybody. Make sure that
and
we
Snuggie.
and we had Snuggie and we had Ollie, obviously.
Say hi to Krieger, right?
And yeah, I sent Fowler the link, but he didn't show up because he's working.
He's indisposed.
Yeah, he's working. I'm working, man. Else I'd come through. I know you would.
Vaughn Coleman. Did we say hello to Vaughn?
I didn't say hello to Vaughn. Hey Vaughn, we were talking about you earlier.
Yo.
Mostly good things. Maybe. He's gonna have to go watch the replay and give me more watch hours to find out, right? All right. So considering where the campaign is, it's still been successful, right? You've still funded over 200% of what you needed. And $7,000 is nothing to scoff at. Most people are having trouble breaking 5 these days. So you've still got the Midas touch when it comes to crowdfunding. You're still obviously at the top of the curve amongst most of the crowdfunders that are out there using Indiegogo. A lot of them just aren't breaking 5. Does it make you concerned, though, moving forward, looking kind of at everybody's numbers being down, at your numbers having taken a tumble? Does it make you question, going forward with crowdfunding on Indiegogo as the dominant or prominent way that you make your money making comics?
Sure. Yeah, definitely. I mean, everything is a learning experience, and we try to adapt to every situation. So this story and book was able to be made because we helped Cecil out with Cash Grab. So the money we made off of that, we put into 2 books. And that's why we were able to come out with this so soon,
so quickly,
fulfilling The Lost Pages 3. So we put some of that money into the art for the Psycho Slumber, and the art on a Western book that I'm going to be doing next year.
You were talking about that. You've been talking about it for a while, actually.
Yeah.
I think last year you were like, I want to do a sci-fi horror Western kind of.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're going to do that. And so we already have the art on this is done. It's getting colored right now and going to be printed with the money we get from here. And so that's why we were able, and hopefully we could turn it around pretty quickly and have another story with Krim in it for those people that really enjoyed that character. But going forward, I was talking to my brother about this last week, and I'm like, we have a couple stories for that Western. The art is done. And I was thinking if we put them out like this preview book with a foil cover, making an exclusive thing. And why don't we just
make it shine? Make it yeah, look at that, guys. Look, hollow sparkles.
Twinkle foil.
Right, that. Twinkle foil.
So I was thinking we have a short story. We could put it out in floppy format, sell it on the website, and then we could recoup our money from the sales of that through our website, and then it could be something exclusive. So always trying to think different ways to get the product out there. It's reasonable for us, financially.
Are you at all concerned about saturation? Because that's another thing that I've heard as a term that's been bandied about in certain circles. People do book after book after book to try and remain visible and relevant and have content coming out. And backers are just like, Jesus Christ, enough already, God. And they're like, I'm not going to back 6 of your campaigns a year. Do you feel at all that might be a concern, like a fatigue on the part of the backer? I mean, honestly, you're asking $25 from someone multiple times a year.
I've heard that, like, my girlfriend's like, oh, maybe it's because they just got a book with Crimstone in it, but I don't really.
Well, not only that, they got a book with Crimstone in it. Then they got the preview book with Crimstone in it. Then they got, or they're going to get this. Honestly, I don't think you can ever have too much Crimstone. I love this character. This character's fantastic. I don't see anything like it out there on the stands. I mean, okay, we have the Masquerade, fantastic character, my first love in the Lost Pages, right? But it's V for Vendetta, right? It might as well be Judex. It's a guy with a mask, and he's got a dramatic flair, and he has a rapier and a cape, and it's the tragedy thing. And I love it. Stylish, really cool. I love the gold color, right? Silhouette, gritty, dark, gunslinger, right? Uses shadow powers, very cool. Crim is different, right? It's a different flavor, and I don't see anything that's analogous to that. So honestly, I don't think you're doing anything wrong putting as much Crim out there as possible. It's more the book after book. It could be the best book and then another best book and then another best book. We as indie creators are not Marvel or DC or even Oni Press or Antarctic or, Mad Cave. We're not putting books out a month where we have people who are subscribing to, our mailing lists to get weekly updates from us about the next thing coming out. Do you think that it's trying to do too much in a compressed time, or is that not it at all? And it's fine if that's the answer is no. I think we're doing great. Legitimate question I'm asking.
I don't think so, because the track record we've put out probably a book a year since 2020, 2019. So I think it goes with the way we've had the flow so far. Maybe it's a little closer together now just because we had this one. We were working on it while we were funding the Lost Pages 3. I mean, from a standpoint of a backer, that would be a benefit. I think something that I would enjoy is.
Do you back a lot of books still?
Yes. Yeah. I do. I'm waiting on my Kit Carter right now. I'm excited for that one.
Nice. Yeah, Graham's a good writer. So, how has it changed since 2020 crowdfunding? Like, what have we had to learn to adapt to the shifting landscape?
Well, I think a lot of people took the the pandemic for granted, with people, stagnant, watching YouTube constantly and throwing their Biden bucks at
having lots of money
creators,
and having extra time too. Because
extra time to read, extra time to back,
right?
To get to know,
to watch people. YouTube,
and extra money for sure.
Let me say hello real quick to Maromi and Edwin the Ace Buzz Acevedo. A lot of creators say that the best way to increase sales in crowdfunding, especially, is to grow your platform. Do you agree or disagree?
I think logically that makes sense to me. How would I counter that with the best way? And this is, you take a step back from that statement. The best way to increase sales is to get your work in front of the most eyes possible. And growing your platform is just one way of doing that.
That's true. Personally, I think that YouTube and Twitter are a detriment to marketing comics. Not getting eyes on comics, marketing comics.
Yeah.
Finding the audience that will buy the book because it exists. You're marketing to people on YouTube. You're looking for fans of you or fans of comics or fans of something. But if you showed someone a picture of Krim and they just handed you money without you saying anything, that's your market, that's your niche. And I think that YouTube and social media and building your presence, building your channel, trying to draw in as many eyes as possible is completely antithetical to that type of marketing and sales. But it's a diverging opinion from, I guess, an opinion a lot of people hold. That said, you do have a YouTube show, and you've been doing YouTube for quite some time, and it's a very popular YouTube show, and you have memberships, of which I am one, because your show is awesome. It is a great show. I cannot stress, guys, you have to watch, the shows that the Diaz boys host over there on Zaid Comics channel. I love Hardline. Creative Block isn't always on your channel. Does it move around, or is it like hosted?
It's on my channel this week. Special Halloween episode. We better be in costume.
Yes, you better be.
We better have a topic that I have to think of. But it rotates between us, between Pear and Narwhal Books, Irene Draws, and Jake at Hyper Wizard channel. So
it's very, very cool to have friends in comics. We did get to meet them, and yeah, they're a lot of fun to hang out with. Jake likes Monster Energy. Yes. Loves his energy drinks. I don't know how he does it. So I guess then that leads us to like our last two questions, which are always the same on this show. What challenges have you had to face, and what was like the largest hurdle that you've had to overcome creating comics and selling them on the internet?
I think the largest hurdle for anyone is marketing and finding that audience.
Yep.
Creating is the fun part, and watching your creations come to life is amazing. So it is a joy. Yep. I mean, sometimes I'll run into like, oh, hey, I need to move this story part around, and I got to think of another story. But even that, it might rack your brain for a little bit. But once you get it, it's like, oh, that's another accomplishment,
Yep, you're not wrong. That's absolutely true. I still hate it because it hurts a lot for me.
Like this part, he doesn't like.
I'm
typey.
I'm mentally constipated right now, right? And the typey is like trying to poop.
Just said you like this part, the dreaming it up, the creating it, the coming up with it. It's the typey where you have to make sure everything is correct.
Honestly, when it comes down to it, it's seeing the page. Because for me, a lot of the way I tell my stories is visualized. I see panels. I mean, I imagine layouts, and I communicate them. And generally, the artist interprets those without me saying like long panel on the top quarter of without me saying any shit like that. They kind of intuit from the way that I write the page what the page should look like, and it's almost always on point. And I think that's because when I imagine the page and I describe each panel, it's just kind of logically put together that way. So for me, a lot of the envisioning is the work that goes into the scripting, seeing the page and then just being able to describe what is in the panels, and that's hard work for me. And that's the part that I think I get constipated on, and then I hate typing. But we're not talking about me.
Raiden says, biggest challenge is making things people want. People are stupid and have terrible taste.
Right, and children are dumb. Just sell them what they want to buy, Raiden.
Well, I think my situation is very unique. I mean, we talked about backer drop off, but like the difficult situations is like I've seen awesome success crowdfunding and putting out books, and have had very grateful with the reviews that I've gotten and stuff. But you bringing up the YouTube side of things being a detriment to your marketing, but also like having people that you think are your friends just kick you to the curb over lies and stuff. And it's very unique to my situation, very unfortunate. And
it's because you're charismatic and fun to be around that you actually wind up having friends, Phil, for them to betray you, and stab you in the back. Just try not being so good looking, charismatic, talented, and successful, and you won't have that problem.
Yeah, I'll try next time.
And then like, once again, an interesting strategy, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, very helpful.
But you learn from those situations. You move forward.
He says the lol frog is no one's friend and never has been. I do not disagree with that. So do you have any advice for fledgling creators trying to get into comic books or crowdfunding, or people, like me, who are somewhat new and can always use words of wisdom? And those words of wisdom should not be don't, because I know right now is a tough time economically and socially, and it might not be the best time to get involved in crowdfunding and trying to sell comic books on the internet. But when the seas calm somewhat, what would be the advice you would give?
I
would say
learn
to flat. Make it easier for your colorist. Contribute to the creation of the book beyond making the it's learn to code. It's learn to code.
I would say if you're a creator, anything you do, whether it's writing or drawing or coloring, do it. Write and draw and color and get better and consume stories you love and consume stories that other people love and try to understand why they love those stories and keep doing it, keep pursuing it and the craft, and
do it anyway, even when it looks like it's not a good idea or that it's going to be hard or that you don't know whether or not you're going to sell it. And consume. And like, I am going to say, this is actually really good advice. Finding a talent, or I should say that's not a talent, finding a skill, a marketable skill that you can apply to. Honestly, I do not think there are talented flatters. Come the fuck on. There are talented colorists, and flatting's a part of the process, sure. But finding a skill that you can use to help create those books that you want to make, that's a very smart way to involve yourself in the creative process and keep pushing the project along. So I also
think like learning, even if you're not good at it,
that's it. I'm not going to do it. I'm not learning to fly.
All of the different facets of things, trying your hand at the different parts that go into creating a comic, I think helps you understand the creation of it and the whole process of it in a way.
Knowing all of the different parts of the puzzle, the pieces. Yep. Hey, Katie, how's it going? Glad for you to tune in and hang out with us for like the last 3 minutes of the show.
There are flatters, but once they get out of preschool, it's hard to stand out.
Oh,
thanks, Mo. But having a skill where you could also be useful to others is important as well. That helps you network and become an asset to people, and that opens more opportunities and doors up for yourself.
Yeah, that's true. All right. I mean, all around pretty solid advice and a good conversation. Is there anything you want to say to people before we take off?
Yeah, the men out there, you need to build up a barrier that protects you from the gaze of the harlot. So I think that's just a life advice.
Yeah. That's not bad advice, like the stoicism argument. There's a lot to be made for that. A lot of people have embraced stoicism recently to get on that, alpha sigma chad grind set to make the money and find success and not be led astray. So I don't disagree. Once again, it's another interesting approach to something.
Dean says, what advice would you have for a completely unlikable asshole?
Do what you love, Dean. Just do what you love. That's at the end of the day, that's all you've got. We got Ben Soto with us. Ollie's the best flattener. Flattener. Right. He could flatten the earth. We got Ben Soto with us just in time for the outro. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming and hanging out with us. You are the best audience that we have, because you're the only audience we have. If you are not subscribed, consider subscribing. We don't do a terrible show. It's not great, but we have awesome guests like Phill that help make the show worth watching. You can always give us a thumbs up to increase our, I guess, favorability in the algorithm. We only need like 2 or 3. You know, that'd be nice to have like maybe 2 or 3 likes on the video. We never get that. And if you haven't backed Psycho Slumber, please consider it. Go do it. There's not a lot of time left. You should not be sleeping on this book, even though Slumber is in the title. It's got 31 hours and 133 backers. Let's see if we could get it to just 135 tonight, so that hard work can be done tomorrow in like the last 24. You know what I mean? That'd be really great. Yeah, 60 pages, $25. Yeah. Very solid team, very solid creative team. Yeah, that's it for us. We're going to take off. Click the bell for notifications to find out when we go live next.
And tune into the frequency.
We'll see you next time.